Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, a solo edition of the show. How the Desmond Bane trade affects the Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant negotiations, and much more as we are hours, days, maybe minutes from a Durant trade. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Monday. Thank you for starting your week right here with the podcast. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer. Get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. We'll talk about whether the Suns can in fact thread the needle and stay more competitive with a KD trade rather than a reset or a rebuild, and some fact and fiction on all of the reporting flying around related to Kevin Durant and where he might end up. But first, an out-of-nowhere trade in the NBA on Sunday. Desmond Bane headed to the Orlando Magic. Can recap what that trade is, even though you probably have heard it all over the place by now. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, 2025 16th pick, and then 3 future picks in 26, 28, and 2030, and then a swap in 2029. So right off the bat, I have 4 ways that this impacts the Suns, okay? And I put out some feelers online for you guys to tell me what you wanted to hear about. I figured this trade would be one of the main things, but it absolutely was. And so, off the bat, the Kevin Durant price is up. So Jacob Simpson asked about this on Twitter. Beardo asked about this on Twitter. We'll talk about it, all right? The price is up. And it's hard to say exactly how, right? And I don't want to draw a one-to-one, right? Because people always like to talk about the Rudy Gobert trade, for instance. Well, hey, that one, it was X number of first 4 or 5, whatever it was, plus, I believe, Walker Kessler and Ochai Agbaji. Like, that's, or maybe not him, whatever. That's a lot. How come every other trade for other centers who are similar to Gobert or whatever didn't fetch that much? Well, you can't do it that way. And in this case, you especially can't do it that way because, frankly, the situation right now is it's not going to be pick-based, right? So the main thing of the Bane return relates to draft picks. Kevin Durant's not going to – the Suns don't want draft picks. So what does that exactly mean? We will see, but – it is impossible for me to imagine that the Suns are not going to the Memphis Grizzlies, to the team acquiring Kevin Durant at this point in time and saying, the Memphis Grizzlies just got this much for Desmond Bane. You got to beat that. And they're seeing whether that is indeed possible. In total compensation, right? The other thing, this is a quick one, okay? One of the best things in this entire trade is the 2026 swap rights via the Suns. So, obviously we're talking about this trade from the standpoint of like, hey, how does it, we'll get to it in a second. Are there Grizzlies players who could be part of this? Obviously the price stuff. But the funny part of this is that the primo jewel of the trade that Memphis is getting back is the swap rights to the 2026 pick, which I believe both teams actually had some kind of ownership of, but now the Grizzlies have the best swap of it, which is, of course, the Suns side. Third, shout out to Flex from Jersey. He's been all over this. I was confused, as I think a lot of people were, to hear him mentioning the Grizzlies, but he's been right before, and I don't know if he's going to be right that the trade goes this route, but he had sniffed out that Memphis was talking way before basically anybody else. And sure enough, I don't know if this is the beginning of some kind of fire sale for Memphis or something, but it is sure a trade that we did not expect. And so are they available as a third team? Is there some sort of chance that, I mean, like we can look at their salary sheet here. It doesn't take you very long to get to Jaren Jackson Jr.'s name. I'm not going to pretend like that's not where all of our minds went. But, you even look, I don't know what the rules would be if this trade has been finalized yet, but retrading Kentavious Caldwell-Pope could be part of something. They have Conchar at $6 million, Brandon Clark at $12 million. But look, it's Jaren Jackson, right? And that's hand in hand, number 3 and number 4 of my list of ways that this trade impacts the Suns is it comes back to Jaren Jackson, right? And not just because the Suns need a center, not just because he happened to go to Michigan State University, and we know the value that probably holds for this front office. I believe that I don't remember for sure off the top of my head if Jordan Knott was there at that point in time, but that I believe Jaren was the 2018 draft, so he would not have been there. He would have been at Atlanta, and I don't remember if Brian Gregory was either. But suffice to say, we know at this point that it is especially important. No, Brian Gregory was at South Florida by that point. It's a helping hand. If it's a helping hand to be the head coach of the Suns, it's a helping hand to be the starting center of the Suns, and the money is obviously there. So think about it this way, right? Could with now having no 2 guard, I'm not sure. I mean, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I suppose, is their 2 guard, but if Memphis wants to reset its salary a little bit, given that Desmond made quite a bit of money, he made $37 million and escalating from there. Maybe Jalen Green, a little bit more shot creation opposite Ja Morant. Could he go to Memphis as part of this? If it's a Houston deal, could a Julius Randle potentially go to Memphis? Or, I mean, heck, Rudy Gobert. I'm just throwing names out there. With the Spurs, could Devin Vassell go to Memphis? He's another guy who could be a potential Bane replacement who makes less money and is younger. That's the kind of place that your head has to go, I think, when you're just thinking about this from a Suns standpoint. Is Memphis now cropping up as a potential third team where before we were looking at, hey, does it have to be, the Nets, of course. The Pistons have a little bit of cap space potentially. Are they going to be it? Whatever. I mean, I don't know if I said Julius Randle. Of course, he could be one of these too. We've been looking at all these things and saying it has to be 3 teams because of the aprons. It has to be 3 teams because the Suns don't want this player. Brooklyn only fits in so many places, and they have their own priorities. They're not just going to give up their cap space to be the Suns' pals, even though they've traded with the Suns a lot. Now there's another team and a player in Jaren who, look, he only makes $23 million this year, this upcoming season. So most likely that would be the number he would count for in a trade, but he's looking for an extension. If Memphis doesn't want to pay Desmond Bane $37 million, Jaren Jackson's 26. Do they want to pay Jaren at age 27 starting next year, 4 more years after that at what will be a really big raise? I don't know. He is still an injury-prone player. He does still have his limitations as a rebounder and everything else. I could see the Suns, because they don't want to bottom out, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Can they stay competitive? They obviously want to. I could see the Suns actually being more determined and more willing to pay for a big extension for a Jaren Jackson than Memphis, even though Memphis has drafted him and developed him and gotten, into the playoffs and into the second round a couple times with him. It's weird to say that about a homegrown player, but the time might have just run its course. So those things have to be swirling. The KD price has to at least go up in some way if you're looking at this from the Suns standpoint. If I'm Brian Gregory, I'm saying KD's better than that guy. The price is not yesterday's price. And a third team and Jaren. It's really a big wrinkle that just got inserted to this. And maybe that wrinkle was there the whole time, and we just didn't know it because we're sitting here saying Minnesota this and San Antonio that and Houston this other thing and Miami that. But now we know it, and it really, really could change things. Let's get to whether the Suns can really stay competitive, because if they're going after something like Jaren, and we don't know that they are, frankly, almost anybody that the Suns are most likely going to be getting back, whether you're talking about a Dylan Brooks or a Fred VanVleet in Houston or a Julius Randle or a Jaden McDaniels. Like, can they do this? Can they really pull this off? And what does that have to look like? I'll tell you next. First, today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, I'm moving right now, so I certainly do, and we all do. It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, though. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. Here's the deal. Even my wife and I, during all this moving, it's like, okay, the bank account's fine. We got the money to move. We played it pretty smart, but we have a list of things we got to buy. We have, a new portal to log into to pay our rent, and we got new people involved with it's a mess, and it's all over the place. But Monarch Money is a complete financial command center. It's all in one right there for you, so you don't ever forget or lose track or make a mistake. Take control of your finances right now with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com to get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Alrighty, we're keeping it rolling. Hopefully you guys like my new beautiful background. This is going to be the norm going forward. As I've mentioned numerous times, including in the Monarch Money ad right there, we have moved. And so we got a window behind us, or I could have had a weird door behind me if I went to this wall. So we're going to go with the bed and the windows. I might throw something back there, but you guys, you've seen it evolve over the years, and this is just going to be a different version, and we're making do. And I'm hoping not to be so echoey as I put some more padding up in here. But that's the deal. If you're wondering, if you're thinking, if you're worrying, if maybe you're mad at me for my Padres hat and you don't care what room I'm in, hello, welcome, thank you. But let's go to it, okay? Let's talk about the idea of staying competitive, right? So L. Tynan gave me a question about this. Also got a question from Jason Schneck. I know you guys are both two long-time everydayers, and I appreciate you both. So I'm going to get to it, all right? So Jason said, what do you think it will take roster construction-wise to get this team into playoff contention? Does Booker, Parker, I don't know. What Parker is that? What am I doing? Who is Parker? And Jalen Green at least get them the 8 seed. Let me see what who's Parker? Who is Parker? Am I an idiot? This is why I need Ben on here. I'm used to him at this point. My light's falling at the same time. And L. Tynan said, let's see, is a KD trade enough to get the essential ingredients back for a win now ball club? And I think it's a good question. He said 50-win season. Obviously, your mileage may vary. I'm sorry that I'm shadowy. I'm trying to fix the lighting all in one moment. So as far as the Kevin Durant trade goes, this question, I think the answer is yes. I think that a KD trade can absolutely get the Suns back on the path toward being a competitive team. I mean, I actually think it may have worked out for the best that this is what they were targeting because, frankly, as we've seen with the second apron, and even if the Suns are just a first apron team by the time this trade actually goes down, if they were to waive Martin or Micic at some point, then it's still complicated. And the teams that they're dealing with are worried about aprons between Miami, Houston, and Minnesota. All those teams have those problems. So you had to get back a big amount of money. And the guys who make a lot of money are usually veterans, and they're the types of players that you kind of have to be ready to compete with. So it's almost like, did the Suns choose this, or did the fate just end up in their laps regardless? I don't know. But because of that, yes, the Durant trade is going to put them on that course. Again, we can go through the names I just mentioned in that last segment with the Jaren stuff. I mean, Jaren himself, if that's real at all, obviously we've talked about Gobert, Randall, maybe Jaden McDaniels isn't quite the type of player where you're like, all right, he's gonna be the number 2 player on a team that pushes for the 8 seed or something. But that's 3 guys from Minnesota. DiVincenzo's been talked about out of there. Obviously, if they were able to get Naz Reid, that'd be amazing. Houston, it's guys like VanVleet and Brooks who make the money on that team. Even their young guys, they just went through a playoff battle. They're ready to continue to compete. And Miami, I mean, it's Andrew Wiggins, it's Duncan Robinson, it's Terry Rozier. I mean, he might hurt you. Unfortunately, his career's in a very weird spot on and off the court. And even, again, their young player, if it's Khalil Ware, or even if it's not, I wouldn't really do a deal with Miami personally if it's not Ware, but Jaquez, Jovic, those guys have been in deep playoff runs themselves too. So no matter where you look, it's all players who are going to help the Suns continue to win. Now, if you're setting the bar, as you did in your question, or some of the people I've seen, even Jason, like he said 8th seed, that's where I start to worry. Because look, you don't need me to tell you the Suns were nowhere near the 8th seed this season, and they had Kevin Durant. They also had guys like Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal, who I believe it was Mark Stein reported over the weekend that there's at least some kind of conjecture and conversation around the NBA that those guys could be roped into some kind of, have been and may be part of the ultimate Kevin Durant deal. The Suns can't aggregate salaries, but they might, if you do it as 2 separate trades, for instance, you can get around that kind of stuff, as we talked about with Beal and everything. So those are a lot of players that were on last year's team who you would think would have been veteran, hey, let's win now types of pieces already. The team sucked, and I could imagine the Suns having a little bit of an onus on them to get those, to move off of those players because they're paid a lot. They could have value to other teams. There's no real need to keep, approaching his mid-30s Royce O'Neal or an in his prime Grayson Allen necessarily this year. Maybe if you are trying to win, but I think you'll at least explore the market. And again, the team was bad anyway. And so to me, the thing is that they really need to get, if they want to win, if they want to get anywhere closer to that type of 8 seed positioning, is they have to get deeper. They absolutely have to get deeper. And so that's really the question to me is there a pathway this summer that allows you to get deeper? One, it has to start with nailing draft picks. So, if it's Miami that this deal goes down with, I think you might be able to get 20. That's the Warriors pick this year, but they have it. So you're up at 20 and 29. Do you take 2 players? Do you try to package them together and trade up? That type of thing. If it's Minnesota, I believe they have 17 and 31. Could you get one or both of those picks? Same thing. You start to add young players that way. San Antonio has 14. The Rockets, can you get 10? I don't think the Rockets have their own pick. I think they just have 10. So you're probably looking at, no matter what trade, you're adding another first-round pick this year and some players. If Ryan Dunn is playable, if Nick Richards is playable, you have Devin Booker. There's obviously a huge Bradley Beal-sized question in everything we talk about that makes it really hard to answer this question. But let's just say whether he's on the team or not, you just put a 0 in his spot. Well, that's a dead kind of roster spot, dead position on the books. So it just gets really hard to assemble. Like, let's say that they get, let's say that that Jalen Green goes to, let's say Jalen Green goes to Memphis. I'm just spitballing. We'll talk about fact and fiction of all these competing rumors about whether KD is actually going to any of these places in just a second. But let's just do the Houston one. Jalen Green goes to Memphis. Jaren Jackson comes back to Phoenix. And let's say it's Jabari Smith as well comes back to Phoenix. And I don't know. I don't even think that that's possible. Those guys play similar positions. I have no clue. And they get not 10, but I don't know, some kind of second-round pick or something. All right, so let's just say then at that point you start Booker, you start Grayson, you start Jabari, Jaren, and Ryan Dunn or something. I don't know. And then off the bench, I mean, what do you have? Nick Richards, you have Royce O'Neal or whatever you get back. I mean, like it's hard to imagine a version that is better enough than last year and deep enough. So I hate to be that guy, and I could easily be proven wrong. There's so many what ifs still, as we're about to get into with the fact and fiction of all these possibilities here. But as far as right now, I just look at it and I say the team this upcoming season, I think it's too quick to imagine a full revolution of the roster, a turnover of the roster that's going to allow you to basically get rid of what didn't work and get in enough stuff to change the team up and put it in a new direction. They were one of the worst defenses in the NBA. They had no center that was playable at a high level. They had like 5 guards, and the only one who was really above average was Devin Booker. That's just really far away. Not to mention, you're getting rid of the dude who was the best player on your team last year. Like, start there and then get to everything else I said. And I hate to do this, but I just don't think so. I don't think the answer is that they're going to be anywhere near an 8 seed or 50 wins this upcoming season. Could they go on the road in a play-in game, get the 9 or 10 seeder? I mean, heck, sure. They could get the 8 seed, but I don't think that's going to be 50 wins, first off. And second off, I am skeptical of all of that anyway. Let's close out with what's real and not real regarding Kevin Durant destinations. The truth, as I can hopefully try to give it to you next. First, today's show brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's that time of year. The NBA Finals are roaring, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. So whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and even live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Let's see. WNBA, I've been telling you guys to smash those favorites in the W world. Let's see. Here we go. Caitlin Clark back, fresh off a 32-point performance on Saturday. They are hosting the Connecticut Sun on Tuesday night, and they are minus 1,800 favorites. That is as good of a odds as you're going to get. So put some money down on Caitlin and the Fever, and if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up for it. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, and get those $200 in bonus bets with those big odds I just gave you. That's the best you're going to do. Try it out. $5 on the Fever. Get your $200 in bonus bets if it wins, and then have some fun with the rest of the wide world of sports. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's close it out. So, there's a couple competing things going on. Let's start with the biggest news since we last put out an episode, though, okay? So on Saturday night, Shams Charania reported that the Miami Heat, San Antonio Spurs, and Houston Rockets are Phoenix Suns star Kevin Durant's preferred trade destinations, sources told ESPN. People across the NBA have been aware in recent days that those are the 3 teams Durant would commit to with a long-term extension. Okay. So, what does that mean? That gave way to more reports. In the Shams piece about this, the Suns have made clear to the 6 to 8 seriously interested teams that they will make the best deal for the franchise, even if it means trading Durant to a team outside his preferred list, sources said. His contract extension would be 2 years, $122 million at most. So right away, right there, right, you're seeing the Sun. So Durant clearly would be the side of this that would leak. Hey, here's my 3 teams, right? This happened in 2022 when it was Phoenix and Miami. And then ultimately he went to the Suns 6 months later, 8 months later. And it's happening again now. And so that's the Durant side who would be making that part clear. And then right away, right here, in the Suns have made clear that they will take the best deal for the franchise, even if it means trading Durant outside his preferred list. That's the Suns with their own leverage in return, right? And then we basically saw a version of that play out over the course of the weekend, more specifically with the teams on that list. So you've heard a little bit of cold water thrown on San Antonio and Houston, kind of depending on where you're looking. But that's been, right, San Antonio, they're unwilling to include Sohan, or they're unwilling to include Castle, or the number 2 pick, or maybe the Suns don't like Vassell, or whatever kind of angle of it you might be thinking there. And then Houston, hey, their push for KD is more coming from Ime Udoka. It's not really as aggressive as you might think, and they're still hesitant. There's some kind of pathway that they might want to go for it, but it's not likely. Whatever. So then you would think if there's more pushback on the Spurs and Rockets side, but not a lot of pushback on the Heat side, well then, it sounds like Miami might be the front runner. Maybe, depending on what you believe. So then, once again, you could look at the Suns continuing to emphasize. Mark Stein had the same thing. Hey, we are open to trading him to a team that may not sign him, right? If it's Miami, let's just say that the Spurs and Rockets hesitancy is real, and the fact that there's not a lot of negativity around the Miami side of it is real, and Miami is the front runner, well, then it would make sense for the Suns once again to say, hey, well, it's not a given, we're just going to send him to you, right? I mean, this would have played out, let's say, if KD only said Miami, right? Well, then you would have, of course, expected the Suns to come back with, the negotiating ploy of saying, okay, that's cool if it's Miami, if that's where you want to be. We're not necessarily sending you to Miami. And of course, it could get ugly from there. It happened with Damian Lillard, and he ended up elsewhere. It can happen. But that's what you would expect the public leaks to look like. And that would be designed to say, okay, we understand it's most likely going to be the Heat. And frankly, the Heat have a package that we would say yes to if we're Matt Ishbia and Brian Gregory, right? But, it's not hard to imagine that this is hinging on potentially Kel'el Ware, right? We'll trade him to Toronto if the Heat don't include Kel'el Ware. Like, that could literally be what this is. That could literally be what this holdup right here is. It could be legitimately based on Kel'el Ware. If Miami's saying, all right, you take... there was reports that at the deadline, they wouldn't include Ware or Jaquez. And so maybe the young player back could have been Jovic or something. Now it might be, well, look, it's not going to be Jovic. That's not going to be the centerpiece of a trade. Jaquez had a down season. It's not going to be him. And so it has to be Ware. And if it's not Ware, the Suns can say, all right, well, we'll call Toronto. We'll call the Clippers, these kind of wild card teams. I mean, even in Shams' story, he says there's 3 teams KD wants to go to, but there's 6 to 8 who are seriously interested, right? So if you include Toronto and the Clippers, which we've heard about, that gets you to 5. If you go to Minnesota, who, of course, we've heard plenty about, that could be 6. And then, maybe the Knicks are teasing. They're still actually in this. They were lying before. I don't know. You can piece it together. So to me, that's where this inevitably is going. I don't know exactly what's true or false because, look, I'm not an insider. I don't talk to executives and agents and get all this info about everything. But what I can do is read through those tea leaves, and I've followed along with plenty of these, including when the Suns were going to get Durant, and try to make sense of it. And that's the sense that I'm making. I don't want to make it seem like I'm telling you the Heat are the front runners, but they're at least the team that the least pushback has come from. And I think the East is mighty nice. And I think Kel'el Ware is exactly what the Suns want with everything we've heard, a long-term center. So that's where I see things in terms of the latest reporting and rumors. And that's where I see it going from here. It seems like it's any day now. Ben will be back tomorrow. We'll have the latest for you no matter if he's traded or not. Enjoy your Monday, and we'll catch you next time.